So I'm going to try to learn 2 blot tonight because I can't learn tomorrow morning. Aleph. He said Uvemoksha ba'azna, that a woman can go out with a sponge in her ear. But it's got to be tied there. We're concerned if it's not tied, it falls out. She's going to carry it. Let's say she put like a sponge in her shoe because it's painful, it's too tight. Or, some people put like inserts into their shoe. So again, the permission for her to go out with that is behusha kosher law. The sandal, it's got to be tied to the shoe. Otherwise, if we're concerned it's going to fall out. And then let's say a tampon. It's like the old-fashioned tampons that they used to wear tied to their waist. So it's got to be tied. We're concerned that again, she might carry it if she falls out. But on this, Rava disagrees. That's pretty obvious that Rava says, even if it's not tied, since it's a disgusting thing, it's full of blood, she's not going to remove it and carry it. What if there was a handle to this tampon? It's still mutter. It's still going to be permitted. Because even the handle would be a moistic thing, says Rashi, and she won't touch it. And therefore, we're not concerned about carrying it. Even if there was a handle, it's still permitted. When Rabbi Yochanan went to the base medrash and said over the halacha, they argued with him. Rabbi Yanai nafik b'la karmelis. Rabbi Yanai also went out with some kind of sponge into a carmelis, which again is the Chachamim aser the carmelis like a Rosh Hashanah. The chalukan alav kol doro, and everybody argued with him. You're permitted to go out if it's tied. I'm sure Rabbi Yanai tied it. So like kasha the mehedik and the lo mehedik depends. If it fits very tightly, then it doesn't need you could go out even if it's not tied. And I guess he went out with it's not tied because it was mehedik say. Then the Mishnah said, "Bapil pol v'gagal melach." If she went out with some pepper in her mouth for bad breath, it's okay. Pil pelareach hapeh, right? The Gemara says beferish, it's for bad breath. Gagal melach ledorshini, and there was some kind of illness of the teeth that salt was used to heal it, like a toothache. They would suck a piece of salt. Zanvila, some kind of cinnamon, or inami dartzon, also some kind of cinnamon that they would use for, Rashi says, kinamon, for ritzona. And zanvila is maybe ginseng, something. There's a shein totevet, a false tooth, or shein shel zahav, or a golden tooth. Rebbe matir. Rebbe permitted them to go out with it on Shabbos in the Mishnah. When did they say? Because a golden tooth looks very different than the regular teeth. And then we're concerned because of embarrassment, he's going to remove it. That's why the Chachamim aser. Avabashal kesef, it was made from silver, where it looks more like the natural teeth. Divrei hakol mutter. So then everybody holds it's mutter because he's not going to remove it. By the way, the Shulchan Aruch paskins, Osir lot says b'shein shel zav. It's also to go out with a golden tooth. Avabashal kesef, or chomer acher shein nikra, or some other material where it's not recognizable. It's a different tooth, mutter. Right, the kind that are not removable, that's not going to be a problem. We're talking about a bridge or
no, it's fixed.
a thing that was removed. People used to. I remember my mother had a thing that you could remove in the old days. Okay. If it's silver, everyone else is permitted. Rabbi Ezra, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, that everybody holds these people that they are lenient in something that makes them look ugly because they're not going to come to show it. Rabbi Hadamar, Rabbi, because he was matir by the Shein Shel Zah. Rabbi Eliezer, where's the source from Rabbi Eliezer? Rabbi Eliezer pointed by Koveles, Uvitzlucha Shel Plaitos. Women who would have a bad odor and they would wear like some kind of perfume thing, they wouldn't take it off because it would show her in a bad light. Reb Shimon ben Elazar, the Tanya Klalam, Reb Shimon ben Elazar. If she was wearing some kind of shaitel, and this was below the shaitel, so she's not going to take the shaitel off. Yotzeba, she'll go out with it. You're allowed to go out with it because we're not concerned that she's going to remove it because you'd have to remove her shaitel or whatever she's wearing on her head to cover her hair. But if it's lamalam and asvacha, ain't a yotzeba.
They translate it as a net.
Anything that's covering her hair.
Yeah.
And if it's above the net, she's not allowed to go out with it because that she could take off because it's not requiring that she remove the thing that's covering her hair. Mishnah. Yotza b'sela shalatzinis. Let's say they used to wear a coin on on a wound on their leg, and she could go out with that. Habonas ktanas yotzas bechutin. The young girls, they would make a hole in their ear, and they didn't want them to wear an earring yet, so they would put a piece of thread to keep it open. So that they were allowed to go out with. Afilu bekismin Shabbat's name, or like a piece of stick. And it says Arvios, Jewish women who lived in Arab countries, Yotzos Reulos, they could go out with the veil. Reulos means they were veiled. Their face was covered with a veil. Umadios Prupos, and the women who lived in Medea, it was also some kind of thing that they wore. They would wear some kind of garment near their neck. And even a person could go, a man, was common for the women to go out in this way. Period. Then Porphyris ala Even, if they didn't have a button closing her blouse, they would use like a stone or an egg goes, a walnut, on a day or a coin. But they shouldn't do it on Shabbos with these things. More will explain why not. My sin is, what's the sin is? Bas Aro. It's a wound on their leg. Now, why did we use a coin? Because anything hard is good for it. Let her take a piece of clay shard and put it on. Maybe it's because of it's like moist or right, levid late tasa. But then why do you have to use a coin? Use just a flat piece of silver. Maybe it has to do with the fact that George Washington, his face appears on it. So levid le pusla. If it doesn't require a tzura, then they could just use it like an asimon, like a token. So we see from this that all of these things are beneficial for the wound, including the tzura. It's probably some kind of Kabbalistic thing, some kind of mystical thing. Then it says, Habanos yoitzois bechutin, that the girls could go out with the thread in their ear. The father of Shmuel, he was machmir. He didn't allow his daughters to go out with this chutin. He didn't let them sleep together in a bed. The Avid le mikvos b'yomei nisim. He made mikvos for them to be toivelin in springtime, in order for the water. We'll see. That means there was a river, but he would make a certain area where the water would flow and stay there, not flow. And that way they could, because he didn't believe that they could go into the mikveh, into the flowing river. We'll see why not. Because at that time, the majority of the river was rainwater. Rainwater is good if it's mechunasim, if it's put into one place. So either you use flowing river water, like spring water. That's one way to be toivel, or you could make geshem and put it in one place. So we're going to see that in the springtime it's coming from melted snow and rain. So he was machmir regarding that. And in Yomei Tishrei, he allowed them to go there, but he would put mats on the bottom so that their feet wouldn't sink into the mud. And now we analyze these various chumras. Why didn't he allow them to go out with the threads in their ear? Now we had a Mishnah bonus yotzes bechutin. Our Mishnah said they're permitted. So Bante Davud Shmuel the Tzivonim Avu. They were colored. Those cloths were colored. And therefore he was concerned, because they're so beautiful, that they would remove them from their ear and show it to people because of their beauty. Then Lo Shavak Lu Ganyon Gabiyah, they didn't allow them to sleep in the same bed. And L'chura, the Gemara wants to say, Lema Misayil Rav Huna, this has to do with sexual activity. Women who sort of fool around with each other. Psulos L'kuhuna. So a Kohen is not allowed to wear a zona. Isha zona v'chala lo yikachu. We learned it this morning in Parsha Semel. And Rashi says, that's the way Tosfos learns. Machlokes Rashi and Tosfos. Because Rashi says l'kohen gadol, because the way Rashi is learning, these women who are doing lesbian acts might interfere with their hymen, so they're not going to be besulos. A kohen gadol has to marry a besula. So Shmuel's father was concerned that it's going to ruin their virginity. Tosfos learns, no, any kind of sexual activity like this would create a zona. We don't paskin that way anyway, so this would just be a chumrah, because just lesbian activity would not create a halachic zona, and she would still be permitted to a kohen. Of course, if a single girl had relations with a goy, that creates halachic zonus, even though she's single. Now, if it was with a Jew, it doesn't necessarily make her halachic zona, because it's nuspa alma. It's not an erva, but relations with a non-Jew would make her halachic zona. And any kind of forbidden relation, an erva, or any kind of activity that was done belav, would create a halachic zona, and she couldn't marry any kohen. Now, but he treated his daughters in a chomer dika way. So did he not want them to sleep in the same bed because he was worried about Rav Huna? What's his law? He just didn't want them to get used to sleeping next to a different person, an ish zar, a different body. It's a level of tznius, says Rashi. Would create a desire that they would want to sleep with men. Then why did he make a mikvah for them? B'Yomi Nisan, Messiah Rav, Amar of Mitra b'Marva, that when it rains in Eretz Yisrael, Sada Rabba Pras, it would create an overflow of the river Euphrates, where Shmuel lived in Bavel. So he held that in the spring there would be more rainwater than flowing water, and as we said, rainwater is kosher l'mikvah only if it's mechunas into a stationary place. So you have your choice. You could go to such a mikvah, or you could go into a flowing river. But at that time of the year, there was going to be more geshem flowing. However, that alone is pliki to Shmuel. Amar Shmuel, Nara Mekipe Nivrech, that rivers actually get their water from sort of underground, and it's not related to the rainwater. So Shmuel said that this thing between Nisan and Tishrei has no difference because rivers get their flow from underground sources. And even though we have a statement of Shmuel, it seems like we have a statement of Shmuel that contradicts himself. Upliga didei didei, because Amar Shmuel, ein amay matar bezochlin, el pras b'yom Tishrei bilvad. We see a statement of Shmuel, who sort of followed his father, that said you can only go to the river Euphrates to be matar al tuma only during Tishrei time, because at that time there's no rainwater; it's all flowing. That's basically this big Rashi here that basically explains what I'm explaining. Then it says Porfer Salah Even. It says she could use like a stone to close like as a button. Right? Amrit Resha Porferes says you can't do it on. The Mishnah ended up saying you can't do it on Shabbos. In the beginning it says you're allowed to do it. Amr Abaye Seifa Salam Adbeya. Now the Seifa is going about a coin because a coin is muktzah. So if you attached. If the blouse was attached to the coin as a button from Erev Shabbos, that was a problem. You're not going to touch it anymore. It's not, so you'd be allowed to go out with such a thing. But that's why they didn't allow you to do it with a matbeya on Shabbos itself, because on Shabbos the coin would be muktzah. Could she sort of make a trick? And could she use a walnut? Let's say she wants to take a walnut to her child who's sitting in Rosh Hashanah. And by wearing it, that's sort of how she's going to transport it to him. Now, Tibor Lamandamar Marimin, Tibor Lamandamar in Marimin. You can ask the kasha to those who hold that, for example, there is a famous halacha that if a house is on fire, you're allowed to go into that house and put on clothing, double, triple, quadruple clothing, one on top of another to save the clothing. And it's say because we're going to say if we don't allow that, he's going to be bohul al mamono and he's going to come to put out the fire. So there are those who allow you to do this kind of harama. That is, that's not the way normal people put on clothing. They don't put on 3 or 4 types of clothing. It's a harama, so some people permit. And some people don't permit to do that even with Neat Leika. So this question about whether she can transport the egos, we're going to ask it both according to the people that hold you are Marim al Leika, and even according to people who hold you're not Marim al Leika. Meaning, Hasamut, the Elo Sharis, like we said, maybe the fire where Makel, the people are saying you're allowed to be Marim, because otherwise you're going to come to extinguish a fire, which is an Isser Daraisa. Aval Hacha, but here Elo Sharis Leilo Asalafuke. So what? So she doesn't bring the walnut out to her son. And if you ask her to do it, she's not going to come to do it. Oh, Dilma Filamadoma in Marim Bidleika. Even according to the opinion over there that you don't do this harama by fire. Why? But still, Hasam Der Chotzavika. At least they're wearing the clothing. That's the normal way you go out with it. Yeah, you don't wear double and triple, but it's still normal to Der Chotzah. Aval Hacha, but here using a stone as this butt, or using a walnut as a button, that's clearly not the derech chotzah. Maybe Amish Dami. So maybe that would be considered kila achayat. We've already established a principle. And every time you do a malacha, like backwards, you carry something not in the normal way, so you're permitted. And so take. So we don't have an answer regarding this question, whether she can do arama regarding the walnut. So Shulchan Aruch says in Orach Chaim in Hilchas Shabbos Shin Gimel that since they paskin b'teiku, we go like always Safek Daraisa l'chumra, and you're also to go out like that. But to a Carmelist you can. Yeah, well, most of our streets would be a din of Carmelists because they're streets that enter into Rosh Hashanah. They're not mamish Rosh Hashanah. So like a little like Macadam, Las Palmas would certainly be at most a Carmelist. would not be Rosh Hashanah. Now, people used to use a belt buckle. They would make a key as a belt buckle or like as a tie clip. That could be maybe a similar thing and why? Because they permitted to go into a Carmelis. And I'm sure in Poland, and all, again, those streets were also probably Midin Carmelis. Okay, Mishnah.